On this episode of AV Week, how to get AV into the mainstream. AV companies are going bankrupt and what cheaper OLEDs mean for the industry. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 605, recorded Friday, March 24th, 2023. Levels of Dork. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Ms. Kelly Teel. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me again. Happy to be here, as always.
Kelly is from HGA down in Texas way. And with us is another Southern woman. Her name is Christie Mitchell. She is from Liberty AV out of Denver by way of Texas and Kentucky.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you again, Tim. I love your hair. I love your hair too, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We like your hair too.
Thanks. I hate it.
I have not seen Christie Mitchell in real life in 2 years.
Yeah, where you been hiding, man? Infocom. We'll all see you.
Infocom, 100% Infocom.
Yep.
We will all be there 14th through the 16th of June in balmy Orlando, Florida. So we'll talk about that towards the end. First story, Holoxica, a company specializing in holographic 3D technology, has entered liquidation. For those of us that don't speak in accounting and folks like that, that means they're in bankruptcy. As of March 16th, 2023, according to the AV magazine article, quote unquote, despite its groundbreaking work in the development of holographic displays and digital signage, the company struggled financially. It's ultimately led to the outcome. The liquidation process will involve the sale of Holoxica's assets, potentially offering opportunities for other players in the industry to acquire valuable intellectual property and capitalize on the now defunct firm. Kelly, I want to start with you. HGA and Kelly are design consultants. They design AV systems. Talk for a second about what happens when suppliers, when vendors, when the company that you're basing your entire design on is the center point, the center of your system, and they go out of business. What do you do?
Okay, so I have a few answers to this because I've expected it to happen. And so the first thing that's most important to us is it's going to be dependent on the type of company it is and how much of the product that we source and specify. And this company specifically, it wouldn't be a huge loss, but it's still, they're still going out of business. So the first thing we do is assess the impact, and also whenever we find out when it happened. So have we already put them in the design? Are we going to be using them in the future? Are they a big vendor that we use or work with? So the impact in assessing that is the first thing we do to determine how the closure affects the business and the designs we're working on currently and in the future. And you want to obviously go in and identify what products specifically are affected and how it affects the operations of the business. So I think the only thing you can really do at that point after determining what services and products are affected is find an alternative vendor as close to the one you were using. And it's a bit of work. It's a bit of, investigative discovery to do so, but it's, there is no other solution to it except just, all right, they're closing. We can't use them anymore. What's the closest thing to them? And sometimes you can negotiate with existing vendors. So if it's like a temporary closure, they're going through financial difficulties, you can negotiate with them and work out, hey, what do you have in stock that you may be able to get rid of? But in most cases, our first instinct is to just find an alternative and then communicate with them about, what is the outcome of this. And hopefully it's nothing like, where it's a control system product or something major, but it affects us a lot, especially if it's a product we're already very familiar with, and having to relearn a whole new product. I mean, everything's similar, but you've been working with this vendor for so long. It's definitely, it hurts, but you just got to move forward.
Kelly, really quickly before we bring Christie on this one, part of the article was talking about the possibility of another vendor, another manufacturer picking up the IP, the intellectual property. Is that something where you pay attention to? And I'm not going to say you bank on that, right? But you do, I almost suspect, have to certainly pay attention to that, especially if it's a integral part of your design, to see who actually is going to pick up that intellectual property and that technology.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not something we bank on, but it's definitely something we pay attention to, because depending on who is picking up that intellectual property, we need to know how they operate. We need to know what they're doing with the products. We need to know how they're going to move forward. And it's not a one size fits all. Even though you may be picking up that intellectual property, you may be making changes, or you may, go about the business differently than the last owner did or the last vendor did. So it's definitely something we look at. And, we've worked with a lot of vendors. So it's a vendor that's kind of, okay, we haven't worked too much with them, we need to know more about them. That definitely helps make the decision on if we stay with them, if we move to a completely different solution. So yeah, that's definitely an important part of it.
Christie, from your perspective, you've worked a lot with manufacturers.
Right.
So take it from the manufacturer side, and you're working with a dealer. You're working with an integrator who is working on a ginormous install, and suddenly, holy cow, they run into some financial issues here, and they're going out of business. How do you react as a vendor, as a manufacturing partner, to make sure that ultimately the end user, the AV user, is covered and is taken care of?
I want to look at it from a few different facets. So for one, from like a C-level perspective, if I were to be a C-level in charge of an organization and know that this was something that was really popular in the marketplace, I would want to be following very closely to see what does end up with that intellectual property, or if there's a play for whatever I'm manufacturing or whatever facet of the business or the industry I'm in, to scoop that intellectual property up. I would have a question for Kelly to see like how closely she would want to be involved in that process as well, being a consultant, because it's one thing to take the intellectual, she touched on it, it's the one thing to take the intellectual property over to another organization, but what they do with it and what they decide to, and how they decide to implement it is a completely different thing. By the end, they could take that beautiful thing and turn it into scraps and sell it off. So, being in manufacturing, that's what happens with a lot of great ideas, unfortunately, is that leadership or finances just don't line up. So I would want to know exactly what the ability is, how we could right size it into the business, if the data suggests that. The other thing I would say is, just being from the manufacturer side, this is a cautionary tale, and we need to be paying attention. The pandemic is over, but even from my week of travel this week in Salt Lake City, I'm starting to see people, and it's kind of fascinating me, I'm starting to see people dive right back into that regular train of thought, those habits, those relationships that they've always had. They're like, I guess it just kind of blows over sometimes, that changes do happen, and you need to be prepared for them. So if there's anything that we learned during the pandemic, is that sometimes things are just not in stock. And I think that you could use that argument in tandem with what happens when a company goes under, is you need to have not just a plan A, you need to have a plan B, and sometimes you need to have a plan C and D. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing what's right all the way down the trail to the end user. You need to be up on the latest and greatest of technology. And I said jokingly before we started recording is, what do you do when a company goes under? You just buy another black box. And I don't mean to be flippant, but I do. We're in the business of selling black boxes, but we're also in the business of relationships, and we are in the business of business intelligence and what we're doing. And we have so many tools at our disposal now than we did 20 years ago, with all of the data that we can mine to understand and move our organizations through challenges more efficiently. So whatever part of the business you're in, if you're manufacturing, to a design engineer, to a consultant like Kelly, to somebody just, boots on the ground, to a technician, I think that the takeaway from this is always be watching Tim's podcast and video cast and staying up on all of the latest and greatest information, because you never know what's going to happen.
I did not pay her to say that.
Shameless plug.
It's funny you say that, Christy, because I feel like every time we do these, this gets brought up, whether it's in the aspect of there's no stock or there's stock delays, and now it's kind of like, okay, businesses might be going under, and we always come to the same conclusion that you need to have a plan A, B, C, and D. And I expect there to be more liquidation, more closures. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And it's, I don't think we're going to be looking at any improvement, even in stock issues, and everything being pushed out to Q4 of next year.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to let up till at least 2024. So this is something that's just going to be persistent until then.
I mean, I'm a perfectly good plan B and A in manufacturing. So I have stock of lots of things. That was my own shameless plug.
Well, let me ask you this, because both of you brought something up. That is that this is a cautionary tale, as Christy said. But Kelly, you're right. We are kind of different aspects of this. You said that there might be some other ones. Where else do we see? I mean, is manufacturing the one area that is most vulnerable here? Or is it dealers that are most vulnerable to going under?
Why isn't it everybody?
Yeah,
it's everybody on a different scale. I mean, I think it starts with manufacturers, and then it kind of trickles down from there. And I think contractors are just as frustrated with not being able to get stock or having to hoard stock for future projects. Prioritize who gets stock. I know it stresses them out. I speak to them all the time, especially when I have to find alternatives. I think it starts at a manufacturing level, which if you want to keep going up the line, it's even above manufacturers and whoever creates the product and the chips for the product. So
She said that one 4-letter word.
Yeah, the forbidden word. I think that if manufacturers, I feel like are making progress to mitigate the stock issue, and they're trying to get product out. They're revamping the way they're designing some of these products to not rely so heavily on chips or rely on things that are needed for, like I said, control systems. But it just hasn't caught up yet. And I think it does start at a manufacturing level, but I do recognize that manufacturers in a lot of ways are trying to help mitigate that so that whatever they do is going to continue trickling down into the industry, from them to contractors to us.
I would also like to say, you just inspired me. I think that in any level of adversity it breeds innovation. So when you said, we're all trying to figure out ways to do things now that don't involve certain things, that's a beautiful thing. That's, when we as, in industry or even in technology, technology is just moving at a rapid pace now in our society. But when we see these challenges, we find ways to overcome them. So I think that that's the really fun, non-stressful parts of what we're doing. And I'd be really curious to see what those excellent brains in product development are doing, in the next 5 to 10 years to overcome those kinds of challenges.
That actually brings us to our next story. So very nice transition. Samsung has launched an OLED. Attention, Dawn Mead, because her and I are both, have been waiting for this for 20 some odd years. A new OLED 4K TV, the S95C and S90C, features state-of-the-art and superior picture quality. The displays are listed at $24.99 and $18.99, respectively, for the 77-inch and the 55-inch. Other things that these models have: very thin design, so ultra-slim design, in addition to advanced features such as AI upscaling, adaptive sound, and voice control. These are being marketed as consumer displays, but the fact that these are some of the least expensive OLEDs, I 100% expect these in some sort of commercial application, whether that is universities, digital signage, somebody's corporate lobby somewhere. Christy, I'm going to start with you on this. When you look at OLED and you look at advancing technologies like this, as prices come down, what does the reduction in price, I guess, of these advanced technologies mean for the corporate AV market?
So I want to take a dive back into my Resi days for just a moment by saying, there's two things. First and foremost, we always want whatever our technology is or whatever is behind the, the meat and potatoes behind it to be smaller every single time that we're going through product iterations. And we also want the price to come down. So this is business as usual, in my opinion. I think the only difference here is that we're looking at a consumer grade product that could possibly possibly come into the commercial space. And that just means that the consumer wing of that business is moving faster, in my opinion, right? So they're just getting to the goal line faster. And if they're going to make that iteration possible for us, great. What does it mean when it comes to price, margin, all of that? Again, I don't have a lot of sympathy in that area because this is just the way business works. We just have to adapt as we see things move forward. I am the kind of person that gets really excited about the tech and the applications of the tech. And if there's a consumer grade product that we can bring into commercial, I'd love to have our commercial people take a look at things to make sure that the product quality is where it needs to be to withstand the kind of applications that we put it through. But I think it's a great thing. I think that, and I just, even before we started recording, seeing the excitement from Tim and Kelly on this topic makes me excited. I'm a team player, so yeah, I'm excited.
Well, Kelly, explain why you're excited about this, because I will tell you why, after you get done, but I've been excited about OLED for a very long time.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of OLED.
Can you tell me why? Can we make this a teachable moment?
So actually, kind of the answer I'm coming up with is probably going to answer the question you have, Christie. So first and foremost, I'm not going to lie. There's been situations before where we've used prosumer displays in a consumer setting. So it's not completely out of the ordinary, but what I personally love about it, and you ask my husband, he's like, I don't really care. I just want a display. I'm still using mine from 2010. What I think is going to happen is that the professional AV users are going to have more access to high-end displays, which will enhance the quality of their presentations, their digital signage, their visual communications. I mean, it's going to lead to a greater adoption of OLED technology in the industry on a consumer level, in the commercial industry and the educational industry, because they're more affordable now. I mean, we're using Samsung displays, LG displays, Sharp, and those are the affordable options. But when you start throwing OLED into the mix, these are displays that you would use in high-end home theater systems, right? Now imagine putting that in a learning setting or putting that in a digital signage setting. It is going to just be out of this world, and it's going to look nice. People are going to notice the difference. Maybe not to people like my husband, but people are going to notice the difference. And it's going to also provide a significant boost to the professional AV market by enabling a wider range of users to take advantage of the technology. Because right now, OLED's like a residential thing. If you have the money to get an OLED, kudos to you. I haven't gotten one yet, but I would really love to. Because
I was going to say, can we find somebody?
Yeah, no, I mean, Costco had a sale the other day.
I did see that.
Yeah, we got our washer and dryer there. No, I just think that it's something that like you said, Christy, you're kind of combining the high-end residential market, even the residential market, into this commercial industry and consumer market, and you're just kind of combining the two, that's not so out of the ordinary, but you're putting OLED into a professional setting, a commercial setting. I mean, people are going to be wowed by that, because OLED, at the end of the day, it's a beautiful image. It's a sharp image. It looks great. And I mean, I've always wondered why OLED's not used for digital signage. That would be the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
I just learned about 444 and pixel pitch, and I'm learning stuff,
Yes.
Oh yeah, OLED is actually, so what a lot of people don't know is OLED is actually LCD technology, which is liquid crystal display. So a lot of people call them LEDs, OLEDs, but the actual screen, it's just the lights behind it. The actual screen is a liquid crystal display, which means deeper blacks, wider viewing angles, faster response times. So when you say, oh, that's an LCD display, people are like, what? It's an OLED. It's just the development of the lighting behind the display, but the actual display is LCD technology, which is pretty interesting.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and from my perspective, it's one of these things where 100 years ago, when I was a technology manager, we had a kind of a philosophy where if residential technology advanced beyond what we had on campus,
Yep.
whether that was in a banquet hall or in a classroom, our facilities would automatically be discounted, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, because the students or the faculty would walk in and go, oh, well, this looks worse than my TV at home. Right? So there's this pull now from resi into commercial for things like this, right? So I 100% think that, yeah, this is going to end up somewhere in commercial.
Well, and to your point, Tim, just to tie this in a bow, just going back to like everything's always forward moving, and if somebody's doing it faster, like I always looked at the automotive industry. The automotive industry, when I was doing smart technology, was light years ahead of the residential sector. And I mean, there are different facets to that. You've got a different, you've got a different base to work with, foundation to work with. A car's a lot easier to work with than a house. But if their technology, if their focus is more disciplined and they're able to do that, why not look at it? Why not adopt it? Exactly like you said back in the day.
Absolutely. All right. Final story comes to us from actually our website. Acoustics has been recognized by Fast Company as one of the most innovative companies in 2023. This honor comes in recognition of Acoustics' groundbreaking audio solutions, including, of course, their flagship Lisa immersive hyper-real sound technology. This is, in addition to that, it's also their deeply engaging audio experience and the company's commitment to innovative excellence and customer satisfaction. Kelly, I want to start with you. The thing that struck me here when this came across my desk, Fast Company is not a trade magazine, right? Fast Company is equivalent to The Verge, right? Not quite the New York Times, but certainly mainstream. How do we get more AV companies into the mainstream? How do we get them into The Verge? How do we get them on This Week in Tech, right? How do we get them into the consciousness of the everyday IT and AV managers?
Yeah, that's a good question, because AV is always an afterthought. It's you talk to people about what you do for a living, and when I say technology designer and I bring up the AV part, it's always a huge question. What does that mean? I think the biggest thing that AV companies can do for themselves, let alone to try and get more exposure, is they need to develop newsworthy stories. That's how you get out into the mainstream media, get attention. You need to identify key developments or events even that are related to your company that attract media attention. Now, I know we're not asking TMZ to come out and start doing,
why not?
Oh, Lord, no. No.
But if you release a new product, and I think a lot of companies do this, a lot of manufacturers, a lot of integration firms, they'll go and release a new product or talk about an award they won or worked on a high profile project. I am seeing more exposure just due to social media alone. So LinkedIn, Twitter, never thought I'd see updates on Twitter, and now I do. And I think leveraging social media is going to be a big thing, because you need to share news and updates, and that stuff spreads like wildfire. I think we're still kind of a minority in the industry as audiovisual designers and as an audiovisual company. I mean, I work for an engineering firm, but it's still audiovisual at the end of the day. And I feel like, and we don't have a lot of people who do what we do either. So I feel like we're still a little bit of a minority, and that's going to change eventually, especially with this new group. I mean, we have interns coming in, we're training them to do what we do. And I think eventually that's going to be a big part of getting exposure. And then, just as always, participating in industry events, speaking, getting your name out there. But as a company as a whole, I think leveraging social media and having newsworthy stories is what's going to help get your name out there as a company or as a manufacturer. And you just need to get people more interested in what you provide, what you're presenting, what you're offering. And I think eventually that'll kind of work itself out, and we will become a more known discipline. But for now, it's just, a lot of PR and a lot of marketing has to happen right now.
All right, Christy, same question. How do we get mainstream?
So I have 3 bullet points that I've internalized. Okay.
And a PowerPoint prepresentation. Everybody sit back.
I'm gonna need 2 slides. Oh my God! But I'm just such a, we all do that. That's like a dad joke at this point. Okay. So first and foremost, I think, and I think this is my theme of today, is that a lot of times we are focusing on the gigawatts and the 2.24. and this is maybe me being a salesperson and being later into the industry, but me being later into the industry, I think I have a different perspective on it, because we get to a level of dork that is just wow, and I love it, but people that don't understand AV technology and 1.21 gigawatts, from Back to the Future, they're not going to get it. Like, we have to find a way to do that. And how do we do that? And I love the testimonials. I love the projects that we get put into the limelight. But what if we spoke more about solution selling, or solutions that AV comes up with, really creative problem solving, things that we're looking forward to in the future, things that we're doing to future-proof now. And I think another branch to that, this isn't part of my bullet points, this is in Appendix B, is that, we're looking at IT all over the place. We're looking towards becoming one with IT, and IT does a great job with getting out there. So, I mean, how do we take advantage of that? How do we work well together with them through that? So, there's that. The second part of it is recruitment of talent and retainment of talent. I say this every time that Tim lets me talk, is that, we're a niche industry, and I love us. We're so cute. Like, just love us. But at the same time, we need to bring fresh talent and fresh faces and develop these babies, and make sure that they have good habits, and then just capitalize on all they do on the internet, because they tell it all. I don't know if you all watch TikToks, but they tell it all. So not only that, but I mean, just getting some fresh ideas, some fresh perspective from people in Gen Z or even younger. One of the initiatives that we're working on with our Co-Wave group in Colorado, that's Colorado Women in AV and IT, by the way, is that we're going out to these high schools and middle schools even, and saying, look, you can have a career being a Christie in manufacturing. You can also have a career being a Kelly. And my Kelly, my Kelly is Nicole up here in Colorado. She's amazing, Nicole Whitley. I just love her. But just showing like what's possible. And so we just need to be able to start looking from different angles and bringing things up so we can be more mainstream. And then third and foremost, I am very loud. You can hear me from space. I say this all the time. So if we need any help breaking the sound barrier to get the word out, I will volunteer.
I have no notes. All right, that's going to be a good place for us to stop. Thank you both so much. Kelly Teel from HGA. How do people connect with you?
As of right now, just on LinkedIn under Kelly Teel, like the color, but 2 E's.
All right, Teel. Ms. Mitchell, very good to see you, ma'am.
Oh my gosh, it's just my pleasure. And it's so nice to meet you, Kelly.
Nice to meet you too, Christy. I'm glad I finally got to meet you.
Right?
If you ever catch Christy out in the wild, you have to ask her to play the piano. Now, how do people connect with you?
Maybe I will, as long as it's like 5 people or less. I like an intimate environment for piano playing. I don't like to be on stage or whatever. I want it to like matter, But you can also reach me on LinkedIn. It's Christ with an IE. I said that once in a meeting and it stuck, and now I say it all the time.
It works.
Chris, Ty, whatever. It's CHRISTIE Mitchell, and I'm with Liberty. So if you're in any of the Rocky Mountain areas, you should get your numbers up. Thanks.
All right. For Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters or even LinkedIn, but go to the website if you would, please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, brand new Women in AV is coming down the pipeline, as well as EdTech and State of Control. We kind of sort of mentioned Infocom at the beginning here. We will also be heading down to Orlando 14th, 15th, and 16th of June. A couple different events, including the Tweet Up that happens 4 to 6 on Wednesday, the 14th. So check out the website for that as well. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.